Bitcoin in free fall, dropping over 6% on the day. Is it going to be breaking lower? Is it headed towards that 70 to 75,000 range? That has been a major sticking point in my analysis. Ultimately, we're going to explore the charts in this video. We'll also look at Ethereum, Solana, and XRP and see what those charts are telling us. All right, my name is Gareth Soloway, Chief Market Strategist here at Verified Investing, folks. And as always, it's all charts, no BS here at verifiedinvesting.com. Let's jump right into the charts. So here's Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin is down 6.5% on the day. That is a nasty fall on Bitcoin. There's no other way to describe it. The kicker here is we had this nice float up over the last week to week and a half. The problem is this was during the holiday week of Thanksgiving. And so volume, just like the stock market, gets lighter and lighter and lighter. What does that mean? It means that the big institutional money investors, they went on vacation for the entire week. They have that luxury to do that, to just take off the whole week of Thanksgiving with their families. They go traveling, whatever they do, they do. Ultimately, that removes institutional volume from the market, and it leaves a void. It leaves a void where the retail money, the smaller money, has more control. And that's where you get this neutral to upside float that occurred last week. Notice how as soon as Bitcoin, or I should say the S&P futures opened Sunday night with Bitcoin, the institutional money came out and hammered Bitcoin sharply lower. And this is a big thing, folks, because this tells us that institutions want Bitcoin to go lower. All right, that's just the nature of the beast. Let's take a look at the chart. So we have this big candle to the downside right here. We're down again about 6.5% or so on Bitcoin. I will keep you posted on the price action. But first, let's put in our trend lines. So the first thing we do, folks, is we zoom out on this chart of Bitcoin and we go back to the 2017 bull market high. Take a trend line, put a trend line start point there, connect it through the highest point that we have where the line does not get intersected in 2021. That's the first pivot high. Notice how the second pivot high here doesn't touch the line, only the first pivot high. That's what you want, right? You don't want the trend line to be violated, essentially. It weakens it, it cheapens it, essentially. Extend this trend line out, keeping it right on that high from 2021, and look at what you get. You literally got every high here, and look at the pullbacks. Okay, so the reason I put this trend line in, folks, is because there's a lot of influencers, investors in Bitcoin, big money in Bitcoin, and they're hyping that, year-end target. They were saying this a month ago. Now they're starting to backtrack. That target was like 250,000, right? And the answer is it may, and I do think eventually Bitcoin goes there, but to try to predict the price when you don't use technical analysis is literal lunacy. It is lunacy. Because what do we know by this chart? So let me just ask you guys a question here. If Bitcoin were to rally and just keep going up and up, where would you expect, based on technical analysis, based on probability, which is what technical analysis is, for it to get rejected? And the answer is very simple, is if this was the high in 2017 and this was the high in 2021, and then we hit here and got rejected, and we hit here and got rejected, and we hit here and got rejected, if we rallied up on Bitcoin, you would expect rejection here, right? And so again, to me, it's just comical and almost shameful to come out and predict that we're going higher than this line when we haven't broken the line. Now, in technical analysis, once we break the line and confirm, now you start talking. Now it opens up those big gates, those doors, and you can say, okay, we are through the biggest trend line in Bitcoin history through to 2017. We are through that. And now we start looking and saying, okay, now where could we be going? But to talk about it before it's broken is honestly a disservice to every investor out there. And I hope most of you guys, if you're watching this, you're likely smart enough to not pay too much attention to all that hype. Okay, so let's talk about this now. So if we continue to break down, now the first thing we have to watch here very carefully is we do have some trend lines that are kind of keeping price here, right? We have this pivot low, we can extend that, and we also have this one. They're virtually at the same point. So you are going to have some support around this 81,000 level. But this is the kicker. Ultimately, the charts are likely going to take us lower, and that's based on multiple factors. The biggest one is this zone. Take your high from 2021, okay? Okay, drag it straight across, horizontally across. Now, raise it up to this low here. See this low right here that we had in April, the April low, April, the decline from tariffs and all that other stuff in the Liberation Day and the sell off that followed. And notice how that high is virtually right there. Notice all these pivot highs. Look at all these highs right in here, right here, right here, and then the low here. And what this tells me is you have your bull market high at 69,000 and this level at around 74,000 and change. This is going to be your big level. Like, yeah, sure, we could get a little bounce down here, right? I mean, yeah, like I showed you, you have a trend line from here to here, but again, these are minor lows. This is taking, I mean, we're literally going back to our bull market high of 2021. And then the biggest bull flag consolidation that we saw in Bitcoin in 2024 before this massive explosion. Those are the levels we're taking right now, right? And so essentially, to me at least, for Bitcoin's sake, yeah, sure, we could bounce up, we could do this, but eventually Bitcoin's coming here. Now, listen, is there any guarantee that this level holds? No, because nothing in trading is guaranteed. Remember that. Everything is either fundamental, which again, fundamental analysis is what I look at for my long-term thesis, right? Which is bullish on Bitcoin. Technical gives me shorter term moves. Like where's Bitcoin going to fall and hit support, right? But again, there's nothing 100% about it. It's probability based, which by definition means it's more likely than not to occur, but it's not a guarantee. Okay, so very important to understand that. So, in going back to the charts here on Bitcoin, when we get down to this level at some point, we have to watch and see, do we get a bounce here? Does it hold? My guess is it could bounce there. My biggest concern would be, do we start to form a head and shoulders? So you shoulder here, head here, and then we come down into this range and we form another shoulder. And then down the line, do we break through? But I myself am going to be very bullish if we get down to this level. I'm going to continue to kind of dollar cost average in this range right in here, expecting a swing trade bounce, maybe again back to the 90s or 100,000 level. All right, but really amazing price action on Bitcoin here. As again, it's getting a little bounce while I'm doing this video, but still down 6.11%. All right, so again, just to summarize, in Bitcoin, then we're going to move on to ETH, Ethereum, then Solana, then XRP. We'll spend a little less time on those because obviously Bitcoin's my major focus here. But suffice it to say, Bitcoin, nasty sell-off, kind of proves a not so good point for us Bitcoin investors that institutions want price lower. And you could see it because during the holiday week last week of Thanksgiving, we floated up on Bitcoin. And then as soon as Monday rolls around, big institutional money's back at their trading desks. They're pounding Bitcoin to the downside. Okay. While we could shop around, ultimately 69 to 74,000 is an isolated major technical level where we would expect a bounce. If we get that bounce there, we need to start monitoring the pattern. I will be, again, looking for longs all in this lower range here for a bounce. But then again, I will be selling into that bounce unless I see the right bullish signals out there. All right, let's quickly go through ETH. ETH, same thing. So look at this. I've had these lines on my charts for a long time. ETH is into major support here, but it's got to hold. It's a little concerning that it's seeing this kind of this level here, right? That it's reattacking this level. Same thing. This was the last week and a half with holiday involvement, right? So again, the Thanksgiving week, the weekend, and then boom, right to the downside. And that is a concern. There's no doubt about it, folks. This is a nasty red candle. We need to hold. ETH needs, in my opinion, you got to hold this low here around 2,600. It could go as low as that low. I mean, you can see it hit right down here. All of this sideways chop is support, but you really don't want to see ETH get below that level there. That would be very, very problematic. Okay. With members of Smart Money Crypto, I have a tiny starter position long on ETH. But again, I'm ready to dollar cost average if it gets down into this lower range right down in here, right, with all this choppiness right into this low here. Same thing. I generally would not prefer a break of 2,600. If it breaks 2,600, we could be headed down to as low as 2,100 on the chart of ETH. Looking at Solana, again, same sort of thing. It did this over here. It pierced. And then by the end of the day, it got back up. We have to watch and see what happens here, guys. But suffice it to say, let me bring that back there. this again is very weak price action on Solana. If Solana breaks here, you're likely headed to the 100 even number. Big buying opportunity for a swing trade there, in my humble opinion. All right, lastly, let's pump in XRP here and see what XRP is doing. XRP remains kind of, as my last analysis has talked about, right? What we have is you have big resistance up here, really big. You can see down descending trend line. This was a major high pivot, then low pivot, low pivot, low pivot. So all of this, and then you can see once we broke, high pivot rejection, didn't get there, rejected, tested the lows, right? So this is big resistance between 272 and 265, big resistance there. And then support wise, huge support down here around 175 to 180. That is a big level to watch there. All right. So the idea here on XRP is that it's just range bound. Until proven otherwise, we assume it bounces here. We assume it gets rejected up here. If it does break this 175 level, there's a lot of downside. I mean, you'll have small levels along the way, but honestly, folks, let's not even, I don't even want to go there because I'm hopeful that it doesn't break that level. I do not have any XRP right now, but again, we break this lower consolidation level, the trading range going back to 2024 is then violated. And we could see, I mean, you could easily head back to 130, even back to 106, and maybe even back to 95 cents. And again, I hate to talk like that, but again, my job is technical, not a matter of giving people what they want to hear. It's reality based, right? It's technically based. So listen, guys, I'm here to watch this. I'm going to give you guys continual updated videos on this stuff. This is some big stuff out there in the markets. I will keep you in the loop. I will let you know what I'm doing. Obviously, it's after the fact, right? I have a service, Smart Money's Crypto, at verifiedinvesting.com, where I give my exact entries as they happen in real time. As soon as they get filled, I tell those people. And then obviously in these videos that I do once every week or once a couple times a week, I'll let you guys know, all right, I'm long this or I'm short this, etc. But yeah, this is some wild stuff in crypto. Again, MicroStrategy, that stock is just getting absolutely hammered. They've leveraged themselves out. Michael Saylor has. He needs Bitcoin to turn around. Listen, he could afford Bitcoin to probably go down to 50,000, but where's his stock price at that point, right? And so, he's seeing a very big decline on MicroStrategy stock based on the leverage that he's taken on. And that's a concern. I do think MicroStrategy is due for a bounce, though. But again, something to watch. All right. I'm going to get going, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll talk to you soon. Take care.